G'day guys, so I'm camped out halfway between Ormiston Gorge and Serpentine Chalet. Serpentine's about 7k away and Ormiston's about 21 k's. So it's been quite a challenging day. There was quite a significant climb in it. However, the direction I hiked it from didn't actually make it too bad. It was very graded, where on the way down it was a lot more rocky, lot steeper elevation. So certainly it was more beneficial for those hikers who were heading east as opposed to west. Following the descent then led to a canyon or a chasm. I had to walk over a very rocky sort of creek bed, and that was, you know, it's like a large rocks. It was quite the challenge after coming down that big long steep hill. But yeah, following that, just sort of climbed back up past Waterhole campsite. It looked like there was one campsite at Waterhole, and that looked like a quite sandy one. And then if you went up and climbed and continued east along the trail, there was two more sort of campsites in a bit of a more exposed location, but if you're desperate and you really wanted to stay there, that's another option for you. I just kept on going until I found the campsite I'm at. On the way, I expected to see a campsite a lot sooner, but it was mostly overgrown, and I reckon because of how much rain they've had, most of the campsites weren't really usable unless I were to start pulling out a heap of little shrubby, spindly bushes. So following that, I walked through this massive, I don't know, canyon, I don't know what to call it. That there's no way you'd ever be able to see something like this unless you hike this trail. It was quite stunning, but it was very exposed. Around 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon is when I hiked through it, and the sun's at its hottest, and you know, it wasn't that fun. But that's all right. I had 5 litres of water on me. That's more than enough to get me through 2 days of hiking, plus some cooking and, you know, soup and that sort of stuff at night time. So yeah, so I walked a little bit further than I expected today, but that's good news for tomorrow. It makes tomorrow a lot smaller, makes it more reasonable. I think I'm looking at about a 19-kilometre day now. And then that will be my next food drop. This section of the hike, there was a, like I said, a big hill at the top. I think it's called Hermit's campsite or something like that. And that was a very well sheltered, excellent campsite area that you could maybe fit, oh look, I didn't even count, maybe 8 to 10 sort of campsites, tents, so for large tents as well. So far this section of the trail has been very interesting. It has been a lot of hard work. It is rated a 5 from the national parks in difficulty, and 5 is the hardest. I can't remember what Mount Sonder was off the top of my head, but I don't think it was a 5, probably more so a 4. But previous sections to this were 4s as well, except from Fink River to Ormiston Gorge, that was rated a 3, and that had bugger all climbing. I think it gets a 5 because it's just simply so steep and so rocky, and navigating through that river that in the canyon with the large rocks, that was quite difficult. So yeah, I can see why it gets its 5, but I honestly thought it would be so much worse than what it was, and I'm sitting here like really grateful that it was, yeah, not as bad as I expected. I sort of got a little bit worked up about it last night, thinking, oh, if I've bitten off more than I can chew. And I actually packed 3 days worth of food for this section, thinking that one night overnight wouldn't be sufficient, when it's, for me, no problem at all. I mean, if you want to sit and take it a bit more scenic and slow down and, you know, absorb it all in, definitely you want to take 2 nights for this section. But I don't like sitting around at camp. I like to keep moving. If I hit camp any time before maybe 2 p.m, 3 p.m, I kind of would just rather keep on walking for a little bit longer. Yeah, so that's day 4 for me on the Larapinta. I reckon I'm approaching the 70-kilometer mark once I get into either the next campsite, Serpentine Chalet. If not, it would be the campsite after that, which is Serpentine Campsite, which is where the food drops are. So yeah, I'm chewing away at it. Anyway, here's my little campsite behind me. It's pitched nicely for once. The surface of the ground for some of these campsites have been quite difficult to pitch a tent like this in. Sandy ones are obviously very difficult, but thankfully I haven't come across the time I needed to do that. But I've had very rocky areas, like on the top of Hilltop Lookout. I stayed up there, and you know, there's so many rocks under the ground, tent pegs just don't go in. They keep hitting rocks and they don't go in enough to pitch a tent like this nice and tight. So I had to tie my ropes around a tent peg and then sort of cover it with rocks to keep it in place. And thankfully there's so many rocks there, you won't have a problem sort of doing that, but it just adds a little bit more time and a lot more fiddly and frustrating when the wind blows it down. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.